And so we're going to do a little something different. We got a historical figure online who happens to be, full disclosure, my cousin, who's one of the pioneers in black comedy in America, and Michael Williams. Say hello to Michael Williams.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm excellent, man. The cousin. I have to call you cousin.
Yep.
And I've wanted to get you on here for a while because of all the anniversaries going on. We got Martin's 25th year. We got Def Jam coming up with their anniversary. You had yours not too long ago, the Comedy Act Theater, which was one of the only black comedy club in Los Angeles back in the 1980s. So tell us your background and about the Comedy Act and how you got started in comedy.
Well, really, in a nutshell, I started my business, which was the first organized black comedy club and eventually chain in the country, back in 1985, when I realized, after seeing a sea of unfunny white comics, and eventually the last comic of the night was a black guy who was not as funny as all the white guys, until his last piece when he tried to be a preacher. And I said, I could relate to something like that. That would be great if it was all black. And that's when the light came on. And that's when it hit that I could actually pull this off. All I had to do was find talent, because I knew I already had an audience, basically built up from all the events that I had been doing over the years. And all I had to do at that point was bring the two together and grow the business. And the business started off as a success from day one. As many people know about Robin Harris, Robin Harris was my first host from the day I started to the day before he died. My club is where Bebe's Kids was born. And it was a great success, and I'm just so happy that all that came together.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know that prior to Def Jam and black comedy, I mean, the Comedy Act was particularly in Los Angeles and later on Atlanta, where everybody who's anybody in black comedy, they had no place really to go, particularly on the West Coast, but the Comedy Act.
Right.
And when it comes to Martin Lawrence, I think Martin Lawrence's first appearance on the West Coast was at the Comedy Act, correct?
Yeah. He came up to me and told me he was a comic from the East Coast. I just told him, I said, I got too many tonight, so come back tomorrow. And next thing I knew, he came back tomorrow, and basically the rest is history with him. He did a fantastic job, and we, cemented a deal in terms of him being able to have a home. That was just one of the many talented individuals that, was able to shine and showcase their talent based on the fact that they knew that they had a place they can always do it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think it was, back before Def Jam, which many of these guys made it on to Def Jam. You're talking Jamie Foxx, Mark Curry, like I said, Robin Harris, eventually I believe DL, of course, who's from Los Angeles. Pretty much anybody. Chris Tucker. I think you told me the story in Atlanta, where you said Chris Tucker and a few other guys were sharing a room I think you paid him like $50 for the weekend.
Well, actually, Chris Tucker is from Atlanta, so he had just graduated from high school in June of '90 when he started coming to the club. It was actually people like D.L. Hughley, Jamie Foxx, Joe Torre, Mark Curry. I squeezed all of them in one room and paid them, $700 for a full week.
Wow.
But, they had a chance to showcase their talent. They, were having opportunities of being on the road for the first time. I built them up as, big-time professional Hollywood comics from L.A., so the illusion to basically make them into this big mega whatever, they ended up becoming that big mega whatever. or shall I say now, superstar talented, and some are already millionaires. But, somebody had to make it happen. I didn't mind being the one to make it happen. I was glad that they had that opportunity. I think now when they look back, they realize that that was part of their individual journeys, going through all those, those different opportunities to, experience something that they, in essence, can look back and say, wow, we was that generation of comics and talented comics that produced that first big wave of comedy, in America. And I mean, they were the cream of the cream. And when you think about after the Comedy Act, which had to close, due to the illness, there hasn't been a greater group of talented comics since. So on one hand, I have to kind of like toot my own horn on that one, which I don't do too much, but I'm just excited at the fact that I realized I've done something that nobody in this country had done. Because when you think of Comic View, when you think of Def Jam, when you think of Fox TV, and who else? Comedy Central, those entities came after the Comedy Act and built their businesses basically off the backs of these people that were once by amateurs. Yeah. And so, I mean, to me, that says a lot. That means a lot. I'm proud of what I did, how I did it. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change, really anything, because I probably wouldn't be on the phone right now talking to you guys. So I'm just happy that I did, what I did, because I had a love for our people, and that was the main driver for all of this, was making sure that we had, as Black people in this country, the best quality entertainment money could buy.
Absolutely.
So that's how I've always felt. We always deserve to have the best, but somebody got to deliver that.
Absolutely.
And that's what I felt an obligation to do.
Right. We're talking with legendary comedy promoter Michael Williams. And real quick, I wanted to know, when you were working with young guys like Martin or some of the other, was there any time that you just knew right away, okay, this guy has it, that there's something different about this one as opposed to the hundreds, I'm sure hundreds or thousands of comedians that came through your comedy club?
Yeah, there was, I really did feel like at one point that I wasn't just doing this for the love of just having a business and an opportunity to grow something, but an actual love for having the eye of noticing the talent. And a lot of that came with when I saw that I recognized somebody with that ability, I really just got out of their way and just got them on stage as much as possible. And I think by doing that, they were able to understand that, one, they knew they could get up really damn near anytime they wanted and just go for it. My slogan was, keep effing up till you get it right. And for some of them, they took it literal, which I was happy that they did, because that's what they were doing. They kept messing up till they got it right. And I put it this way. If you guys ever heard of the comedian Jamario.
Oh, yeah.
Damn
you don't know
Jamario.
nothing about no Jamario.
Yeah, so he was somebody that I wanted to one day just say, hey, man, take this little concoction I made, go sit over in the corner and drink it and just, in your life, because you'll never make it as a talent. But at the same time, I said, who am I to deny somebody an opportunity to follow a dream, to actually pursue a want that obviously is within them, and obviously a burning desire to have something. So with that, I decided to test Jamario. We were having a special Thanksgiving weekend show, and I told him that if he decided that he still wanted to pursue this business, I would let him open up that weekend, but he had to come dressed as a pilgrim. And I figured, that was either going to make him realize this wasn't for him, that I was trying to make a fool out of him, and why would he succumb to something like that? But little did I know that on that night, our Thursday night of Thanksgiving, who shows up in a pilgrim outfit? Jamario.
And he eventually went on to do get a nice little amount of exposure on Comic View.
Yeah, well, let me just put it this way. That night, because he had been bombing every single week on Amateur Night, but on that night, you guys should have been there because all the magic happened with that night. Jamario had a routine set around the pilgrims and Thanksgiving, a routine that he had worked on. And when the people started to respond to him with thunderous applause and laughter, that's when I said, again, who am I to deny somebody an opportunity when all you got to do is just give somebody an opportunity? And from that point on, we never had to say anything else to Jamario, because after that weekend that he got standing ovations, the next holiday was Christmas. Never had to say anything. He dressed up as Santa Claus. But let me go back to the Thanksgiving night weekend. From that night, the comics all named him Pilbro, play off of the Pilgrim. So they called him Pilgrim. So when Christmas came around, he was Santa Bro. And when New Year's came, he was Baby Bro. And he dressed up in a diaper, banner, bare chest, black shoes, and black socks. And again, he had a routine set just for that holiday. And next thing you know, he's on Comic View and Def Jam and getting $3,500 a show touring the country. Back then, that was great for him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm saying again, this was the dawning of the explosion of black comedy. And it was just a tremendous ride.
Yeah, very, very during that time. Because I got into promoting as well because of you, and a lot of the relationships I got were through you. And one of them you told me about back in 2002 or whatever it was. You told me about a guy by the name of Corey Holcomb. I called you up and you said, "Hey man, this guy's cold. He's cold." So I happened to call him, and I worked with him back in 2002, Erie, Pennsylvania. On that show was also Coco Brown, who's now a fairly big name around the country and on television regularly. And I'm sitting here talking to Dario and you. So, but anyway, we're gonna come back on the other side with more of Michael Williams of the legendary Comedy Act Theater, where we are doing a little bit of history with the seminal, legendary pioneer of black comedy in America, Michael Williams, who again happens to be my cousin, who's responsible for me getting into promotions back in the day until I ran out of money.
That's usually how you get out of the business.
Right. So, Michael, last segment we talked about the Comedy Act, how you got started, and some of the household names that you work with. So now you have some new things going on. You moved recently to Las Vegas. You're moving into more of the production. Maybe you got some television project. I think at one time you're working on a documentary. So what are some of the things you're doing now related to comedy?
Well, I actually moved to Las Vegas just so I could get out of L.A. and for the most part, I just needed to change my address. And so I'm working on the book based on my starting, this whole enterprise with black comedy. And I'm working on a special reunion with the Comedy Act and all those who have come out of the Comedy Act experience. And I'm also working on a separate documentary that's based on, really just, that experience again with the Comedy Act and how culturally all that came together.
Yeah. Because you think about all the TV shows and things, the TV shows, the movies, the specials, the tours, everything that boomed, particularly in the 90s, out of that seminal period that you were talking about is astonishing. With I remember Martin Lawrence, and you know Topper Carew pretty well, right? Yeah, producer of the Martin Lawrence show. And I remember talking to people with Martin back in the day and Jamie's people back in the day. And that was before the Grammys, before the films, it's just astonishing where these guys come from and where things are now. That whole business of black comedy, which has exploded. And so there is a history there that people need to understand. I think your documentary and book is very timely.
Yeah, what really got to me and got me a little emotional was when Arsenio actually came back for a second run.
Yes.
I think, last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple years ago, yep.
And quite a few of the comedians that came on the show actually acknowledged the Comedy Act. Mm-hmm. Case in point, Anthony Anderson said the first time he ever did comedy was at the Comedy Act Theater. And Arsenio said, wow, I performed there also.
Right.
And then just other comedians, Chris Tucker and Chris Rock, all mentioned the Comedy Act. And then one day, Chris happened to be on The View. This is when Sherry Shepherd was on the show. And when he sat down next to all the ladies, Sherry Shepherd sat next to him and said, wow, this feels like family. We met at the Comedy Act.
Yep.
And so, that just legitimized for me the power of what one thought could actually do once manifested. And so, again, I'm extremely happy and proud of what I've accomplished because, damn, I actually did something that I can actually say I did.
Right.
Yeah. And then Russell Simmons came in with his bucks and his deal with HBO. And took it to another level and branded the whole Def Comedy Jam thing so much where people 10 years after Def Jam was off the air were still putting Def Jam on flyers, like Def Jam, and that spawned a whole nother. And Bernie Mac became a legend off of Def Jam with
Def Comedy Jam.
with I Ain't Scared of You act, and that pretty much took everything off. So right now, with regard to, I think you work with Bill Duke on this documentary. Did you still work with Bill?
Well, Bill is going to participate on some level, but right this second, I have another team that's putting everything together.
Okay, excellent.
So Bill is definitely in my corner. Some form of fashion. He'll be either behind the camera, on camera, both. But he has also a place in my specials because he was one of the ones that used to come and support, the club. So it's kind of hard not to have a lot of people like that involved because they understand the passion and they understand, all the blood, sweat, and tears that was put into that. So he is definitely somebody that is on my side, in my corner, all the way, and I really do appreciate and respect him for all that.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Bill Duke is a well-renowned director. Started out as an actor and is now a well-renowned director and documentary filmmaker. We got a couple minutes left, Mike. I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the state of black comedy right now today, and what do you think it is in relation to where it was, say, 20 years ago? You think it's gotten better, worse, or what?
Well, for the most part, comedy today, I feel, isn't as vibrant as it once was. Yes, there are a lot of funny folks out there. I mean, I tip my hat off to quite a few of them. But overall, it's just not as vibrant and exciting in so much that there's nobody really trying to grow that next generation of comedians. It takes time for a lot of these people to blossom.
Right.
But they need to have a place where they can say, hey, this is where we come and do our thing all the time, as opposed to wondering where they're going to get on next, how often they can get on, all of that. And that's kind of like where I see the difference in what's happening today as opposed to what happened yesterday. And so, I do a lot of mentoring because I realize a lot of these people don't have, what was what's available, at my club, which was, everybody supporting one another. But more than anything, they had me to look at them and critique them and just tell them the truth about how everything was coming together with their act.
Okay. So are you on social media? I don't know, you're on Facebook. Are you still have the Comedy Act Planet website? How can people find you and look up you on social media?
Well, right now, they could go to Comedy Act Planet on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And the website is being redesigned and, developed. So we should be up and running with the website in about another 2 months. But there's been some changes, and they're great changes. I'm looking forward to one, getting my start here in Vegas real soon, and I'm just excited about my comeback. So that's one of the main things that I'm concentrating on more than anything.
Okay. Well, great, Cousin. It's good talking with you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, sir.
And we will have you back on
likewise.
when you got your project up and running, and look forward to having you back, Cousin.
You got it.
All right, thank you.
And tell Rodney I said, hey.
All right, I certainly will. All right.
Okay, you guys. All right.
All right,
bye.
Take care.